Have you ever asked yourself what it really takes to change your life permanently? Not just setting goals, not chasing the next big thing, but actually becoming someone new, from the inside out? That question stuck with me for years. And the answer didn't come from a motivational poster or some viral quote online. It came from a conversation, one that changed how I see progress, success, and habits forever. Years ago, I met someone at a conference who asked me something that really made me stop and think, why should I write a book when I already have a big audience through email? We talked. I listened. I shared my thoughts on legacy, structure, and the power of ideas that last. He took that advice and ran with it. That man was James Clear. And the book he eventually published, Atomic Habits, became one of the most impactful books of the past decade. Not just because it sold millions of copies, but because it changed lives, including mine. As someone deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy, I saw something powerful in James's approach. It's not about the goals you set. It's about the person you decide to be. That's something Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and the Stoics talked about centuries ago. And it's something we often forget in today's hyper-focused world of metrics and milestones. In this special reflection here on Daily Stoic Habits, I want to share what I've learned from James, not just as a fellow writer, but as a person who has helped me shape my own habits, mindset, and way of living. So if you're serious about self-mastery, if you're ready to work backwards from your dream outcome and actually build the system to make it real, stay with me. And hey, before we go deeper, if you find value in these insights, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and follow Daily Stoic Habits. It's your daily anchor in a noisy world. Now let's explore how tiny habits can lead to massive transformation, and why identity might be the missing piece in your pursuit of greatness. Every new year, millions of people set resolutions. Maybe you've done it too. Lose weight, write a book, meditate daily, start a business. The vision is clear, the motivation is high. And for the first few days, everything seems to go smoothly. You're opening those daily emails, showing up for the workout, checking off your to-dos. You're on fire. But then, life happens. Distractions creep in, the novelty fades, and that goal you once felt so sure about, it starts to feel distant, even impossible. The emails stop getting opened. The workout streak ends. The journal gathers dust. I've seen this pattern play out again and again, not just with others, but in my own life too. It's not about willpower. It's not that we don't care. It's that we're chasing results without ever asking who we really are. And that's where James Clear's philosophy in Atomic Habits struck a nerve. He says, start with identity, not outcome. Don't focus on what you want to achieve. Focus on who you want to become. It's not about saying, I want to lose 40 pounds. It's about asking what kind of person eats healthy every day. Instead of, I want to write a book, it's I'm the kind of person who writes daily. It's subtle, but it's everything. Because here's the truth. Goals give you direction, but identity gives you consistency. Habits, the real, lasting ones, stick when they align with who you believe you are. Every time you act, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. And when those votes add up, transformation happens. Think about that. Every push-up, every journal entry, every time you choose vegetables over junk food, it's a vote. Not for six-pack abs or bestseller lists, but for a version of yourself that lives with intention, clarity, and purpose. And if you're wondering whether this philosophy is Stoic approved, just look at Marcus Aurelius. He didn't become wise by chasing achievements. He became wise by practicing virtue every single day through action. His identity was formed through repetition, not inspiration. So let me ask you, what identity are you building today? For the longest time, I thought, success came from setting ambitious goals and charging at them with everything I had. That was the formula, right? Set the bar high, push yourself, outwork everyone else. But I started to notice something odd. Every time I hit a goal, it felt great, for a moment. And then, the satisfaction disappeared. A new goal took its place. I was always chasing something but never quite arriving. And worse, sometimes I didn't hit the goal. And when that happened, it didn't just feel like a setback, it felt like a failure of identity. But here's the truth I had to face. Goals are great for direction, but they're terrible for happiness. And this is exactly what James Clear teaches in Atomic Habits. If you're only focused on outcomes, on losing 40 pounds, making $1 million, writing a book, then every moment that you haven't achieved that goal feels like a failure. You live in a constant state of not there yet. But if you focus on the system, everything changes. Because a system is something you control. It's a process you can show up for day after day. Instead of aiming to write a bestseller, you build a system where you write 2 hours each morning. Instead of becoming fluent in Spanish, you create a routine where you practice for 20 minutes daily. The outcome becomes a byproduct, not the obsession. And here's the paradox. When you stop fixating on the end result and you start showing up for the system, the results start to show up on their own, consistently, quietly, powerfully. That's why I stopped measuring success by whether a video goes viral or a project hits a certain metric. Now I measure by effort. Did I show up? Did I give my best? Did I follow the system I trust? This mindset shift isn't just practical. It's Stoic to the core. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Tie your happiness to your actions, not to the outcome." That's a philosophy I live by now. Because the outcome? It's never fully in your hands. The weather, the market, other people's choices. Those things are beyond your control. But the system you build, the habits you repeat, the effort you bring each day, that's all you. I used to think identity was fixed, that you were either a writer or you weren't, disciplined or lazy, creative or not. But the more I studied habits and lived them, the more I realized something far more powerful. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Think about that. Each time you sit down to write, you're casting a vote for being a writer. Every time you meditate, you're voting for being a mindful person. Each workout, each healthy meal, each hour spent learning, that's not just doing the thing. It's reinforcing your identity. Over time, those votes add up. The actions become a pattern, and the pattern becomes a belief. That's when something magical happens. You stop trying to become someone, because you already are. You're not forcing yourself to write. You're simply being a writer. You're not pushing to work out. You're just someone who doesn't skip workouts. The behavior and the identity merge. The change is no longer external. It's internalized. I've experienced this myself. When I first started creating content, I had to hype myself up. I'd second-guess my voice, my value, my direction, but I kept showing up day after day, not perfectly, but consistently. And eventually I looked in the mirror and realized, I don't have to force this anymore. This is who I am now, and that's when it gets easier. Not because life becomes easier, but because your alignment becomes stronger. You're no longer pushing against resistance. You're moving with momentum. This is why so many New Year's resolutions fail. People try to act like someone else without believing they are that person. They say, I want to meditate, but they don't yet see themselves as a meditator. That mismatch creates friction. But once your actions and identity sync up, the friction fades. You're not faking it, you're living it. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." But I'd go one step further. Do it enough times, and you'll forget there was ever a difference between the two. And here's what's even more encouraging. You don't need a dramatic transformation. You don't need to reinvent your life overnight. You just need to cast one vote, then another, then another. Start small. Stay consistent. Let time do its work. You can be doing everything right, showing up, following the system, casting those votes for your new identity, and yet still feel like you're losing. Why? Because someone else is doing it louder, faster, bigger, and suddenly, The progress that once made you proud feel small. I've fallen into this trap more than once. Maybe you have too. You look at someone else's numbers, their audience, their book sales, their physique, their lifestyle, and suddenly, all those tiny wins you've worked so hard for seem insignificant. But here's what I've come to realize. Comparison is the thief of both joy and truth. James Clear once told the story of Dave Mustaine, the founder of Megadeth. He sold millions of records, but because he was kicked out of Metallica, he saw himself as a failure. Imagine that, achieving what others only dream of, and feeling like it meant nothing simply because someone else went further. The Stoics warned us about this over 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." And Seneca spoke sharply about how foolish it is to measure life by someone else's ruler, because when you do, you're giving them the power to define your worth. That's why I've learned to shift my metrics. I no longer ask, how am I doing compared to them? I ask, did I do my best today? That's all I can control. That's all I want to control. Because here's the harsh truth. There will always be someone who sells more, lifts heavier, runs faster, earns more, or gets more attention. If that's your benchmark, you'll always be behind. But if your standard is internal, if your definition of success is showing up, honoring your values, living your process, then nobody can take that from you. Not even the algorithms. The irony is, when you stop chasing validation, you start creating with freedom. When you stop trying to impress, you begin to express. And that's when your best work, your real growth, your authentic self begins to rise. So if you've been feeling discouraged, not because you're failing, but because someone else seems ahead, pause. Breathe. Come back to your lane. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not them. You are on your own path. And that path deserves your full attention. At first, success feels like a reward. You put in the work, follow the process, and then the results start to roll in. People notice. Opportunities show up. Doors open. And then something subtle but dangerous begins to happen. You get invited to more meetings, more interviews, more collaborations. You get praised, followed, asked, booked. And what used to be quiet, focused time, the very time that built your momentum, gets filled with obligations. Suddenly, you're doing less of the thing that made you great, and more of the things that look like success. I've lived this firsthand. There was a stretch after one of my books took off where I said yes to almost everything. Podcast guest spots, speaking gigs, brand deals. It was all exciting, all flattering, but I was exhausted. I had no time to write, no time to think. The very craft that gave me a platform was getting crushed by that platform. That's when I had to step back and remind myself, not every opportunity is aligned. Some of them are just distractions dressed as progress. James Clear said it best. Yes is a debt. No is a credit. When you say yes to something, you owe time, energy, presence. But when you say no, you're buying freedom. You're protecting space. You're preserving your system. The Stoics were crystal clear about this. Seneca wrote, "People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. Time is the most precious currency you have, and success, ironically, is one of the easiest ways to lose it. So now, I do something different. Before I say yes, I ask, does this take me deeper into my craft or away from it? Will this help me grow as a writer, a thinker, a father, a human? Or is it just noise? Just more? And often, no is the most powerful way to say yes to the life I want. It's not easy, but it's necessary, because success isn't measured by how full your calendar is. It's measured by how aligned your days are. If you're feeling overwhelmed by all the things success is offering you, pause, zoom out. Ask what you're sacrificing to keep saying yes. For a long time, I thought success was about more recognition, more influence, more milestones. I wasn't chasing fame exactly, but I was chasing something big enough to feel like I'd made it. But the deeper I went, the more I noticed a strange irony. the more successful I became on the outside, the less freedom I had on the inside. That realization hit me one morning, staring at my calendar. Meetings stacked, deadlines looming, messages waiting. And suddenly I thought, is this what success feels like? Because if it is, I'm not sure I want it. That question changed everything. I started to think differently, to measure differently. I began asking, what does a successful day look like? Not in the eyes of the world, but in my own soul. The answer surprised me. It wasn't the accolades or the audience, it was quiet, simple. It was the freedom to wake up and write, to take a walk without rushing, to eat lunch with my kids, to read, to think, to choose. And that's when I redefined success. Not as achievement, but as autonomy. To me, success now means having control over my time. It means saying no when I need to. It means designing a life I don't have to escape from. The Stoics said it long before I ever did. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you seek tranquility, do less, or more precisely, do only what is essential." It wasn't about being lazy, it was about being deliberate, cutting away the excess so you could live fully in what matters. James Clear echoed that same truth. He said, "You don't want to be successful at the wrong thing." And that line stayed with me, because there's nothing more tragic than chasing a version of success that robs you of what you truly value. So now, I don't ask, how much did I get done? I ask, did I live today on my terms? And when the answer is yes, no matter what the world sees, I know I've succeeded. By now, maybe you've started to feel it too. That quiet realization that real success isn't about doing more. It's about protecting what already matters most. But in a world that demands more, faster, louder, how do you hold the line? For me, the answer has always been habits. Not flashy, Instagram-worthy habits. I'm talking about quiet, deliberate, often invisible routines that anchor me to what I value. A short walk in the morning. 2 hours of writing before the world wakes up. A family dinner uninterrupted. Reading instead of scrolling. Silence instead of noise. These habits aren't just about productivity. They're boundaries. They are my shield. James Clear put it this way: you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And that line stays with me every single day, because systems aren't there to impress. They're there to protect. To protect my time, my energy, my clarity, my peace. When I don't have strong habits, my day gets hijacked by emails, requests, distractions, and other people's priorities. But when I follow the systems I trust, I reclaim the day. I reclaim myself. The Stoics weren't obsessed with schedules, but they were obsessed with control over the self. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that's what habits do. They create a quiet kind of mastery, one that isn't about domination, but direction. They say no on your behalf. They preserve your energy for the things that matter. They allow you to walk into the world with purpose, not chaos. And over time, those quiet habits become the architecture of a beautiful, resilient, deeply intentional life. So if you're looking for change, don't wait for the world to give you permission. Don't chase bigger goals or more dramatic gestures. Start with one small habit, one anchor, one vote for the person you want to be. Protect your time, guard your mornings, honor your values in the minutes you live, not just the goals you dream. Because that's how you build freedom, that's how you build peace, and that's how you live well, not someday, but today. A day where you show up, where you do what matters, where you stay true to who you're becoming. And that's really what this entire reflection has been about. Shifting from chasing outcomes to becoming someone new through action, repetition, and intention. We talked about how goals fade, but identity lasts. How systems, quiet and often invisible, can carry us through when motivation fails. We explored the subtle traps of comparison, the seductive noise of success, and the exhausting weight of always trying to do more. But what if your life isn't meant to be maxed out? What if it's meant to be lived well, moment by moment? That's what the Stoics believed. That's what I believe. And it's what daily Stoic habits is all about, because you don't need more noise. You need stillness. You don't need more hustle. You need clarity. And you don't need a new version of yourself. You just need to return to who you already are, deep down, when you're at your best. So here's the invitation. Don't aim for massive change tomorrow. Don't wait for the right moment. Just show up today. Do something small. Do it with love. Do it with presence. Then do it again tomorrow. That's how lives change. That's how identities form. That's how freedom is built. Not in one leap, but in thousands of steps, taken with intention. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If something in these words stirred something in you, I'd be honored if you'd like this video, subscribe, and stay connected here at Daily Stoic Habits. This is your space to return to anytime you need to recenter, refocus, or simply remember what matters. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, live simply, live fully, and keep casting those quiet votes for the person you're becoming, one good day at a time.